Hey there, folks. I'm back at you with stocks to watch for next week. So listen, I got a little bit of everything for everybody in this little watch list here. I've got some day trade opportunities coming up. I think I've got some interesting, compelling long-term holds to maybe start dipping a toe and building a position. And so we'll see. I mean, let's get into it here. First one, look, this is a pop and flopper garbage stock. It's got earnings coming up. They had a little announcement on Friday that earnings. They wanted to do a special meeting because they've just got things going on that are so positive. You know that they want to have a special meeting for it. And it had a huge day, huge volume. Actually closed basically right up into this trend line, right at the 200-day moving average. This, even though it is a chronic pop and flopper, this thing it has gone on, let's put it this way, it has had some nice runs in the past. Wouldn't be surprising if it had a nice little run or continuation up into earnings. So this potentially could be a red to green play next week, Monday, or see how it opens, see how it trades, and watch the volume. I mean, if the volume comes in big again, this could be a runner. It could be something that would be fun to take for a day trade if you get the right setup. RLYP, a lot of rumors about speculation that there are several companies looking at possibly taking this company out. Closed right at the 200-day moving average. Nice little, big volume day. Potentially, you could see some continuation in this one. This is another one that could be a red to green move. And look, if you get a red to green move, you could potentially see right up into the 33.50 area, which basically is this trend line here, right? 33.50, you're likely to see some resistance, but that's still a pretty decent clip from where it sits at $29. NLST, so look, semiconductors have been holding up well. We've been talking about that over the last few weeks. SMH actually looks fairly constructive. So look, maybe we see more positive action in the semiconductor sector. $1 hollas, the $1 roll, could be pretty powerful. This looks. I'm not sure what made this bad boy gap. Most likely that was earnings. It had a big gap, came up into this trend line. It's been consolidating, pulling back a little bit, right below the $1 holla. Look, if this thing can get some volume and break through the $1 holler, like I said, can be very, very powerful move. And I think it's worth paying attention to NLST. Look for volume on the break over the trend line, over the dollar holla. Roca, so CMG, which is just got demolished, by the way. If you're looking at a potential short, CMG could be the one. This is a broken chart, and then they came out. I think they guided down on some numbers Friday after the close, so you could see a continuation of the sell-off of CMG because of this E. coli thing. So one of the companies that was getting some activity over the last 4 or 5 days was, and that's a pretty decent accumulation going on right there. Was this Roca, which makes this machine that can detect E. coli. Now look, this CMG thing has not resulted in Roca getting orders for their machines. So keep that in mind. I mean, look, interesting technology. Definitely could see how the CMG news could spark interest in Roca, but there are no definitive sales. So this one is very, very spec. Look, it could get going. It's a pretty low float stock. You're probably going to have some resistance in the 168 area or so. But, look, it could set up for a day trade. A lot of eyeballs on it. If you get some real serious volume, I don't know what the short, if there even is a short on this thing. But Roca's worth watching for a potential day trade, okay? Blue apparently had an announcement this weekend at that ASH conference that we just talked about, And that Adam Feuerstein, whatever his name is, he had a pretty looked like a positive article on Blue, and it was doing a little something something after the close on Friday. Let me take a look at it real quick here. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, not a lot. I mean, we'll see. But look, if Blue gets humming, this thing could come up into this trend line somewhere around, $1.10 or somewhere in that range. I think Blue is worth paying attention to. Mac, look, Mac got an FDA approval. I think that was this big spike here. Got an FDA approval on phase 3 on a drug, and then of course this is probably one of the only stocks that gets an approval and then goes down. But had a little bounce, a little recovery on Friday. It's kind of flirting with the $9 holla. It could come back up into this trend line around $10 or so. That's a dollar move. I mean, it's interesting. It's in a downtrend. I get that, but I think Mac is worth paying attention to next week. See if we can go back up and test that $10 holla. TRVN, kind of like got this saucer. It's not really a cup. It's more like a saucer with the handle thing going on. $12 holla. Interesting, right? I mean, if bios do, find some traction next week, TRVN could be another one that may go up and take out all-time highs. Or not all-time highs, but 52-week highs. Let's see if those are all-time highs. Yeah, all-time highs. All right, worth keeping an eye on this TRVN. Let's see here. What else we got going on? Plus, I love those round number rolls, right? $12 roll. Love it. GVP. So look, super thin stock, right? Super thin stock. But interesting here. Insider buys 159 through 173, and then I just saw there's 40,000 more insider buys in the 186 to 188 range. So yeah, this thing is up a lot of days in a row. I'm not suggesting that you go chase this thing. Maybe you look for it to pull back into this 175 range, right? Which is where it had, there was some resistance there at 175. It finally broke out over that. It's probably a little extended. This likely wants to go for the $2 holla. But I like the fact that I'm seeing insider buys even up here at the 186, 188 range. New management team here. Just did some restructuring, closed down some facilities, stuff like that. So, I mean, it's interesting. It's extended. It looks like it wants to test the $2 holla. Maybe we need to see some consolidation up here. If you back out and take a look at this thing, at one time, this thing was $12 a share. I don't think they've done any reverse splits, but I think it is a thin floater. It's interesting. It's extended. Don't go chasing it, but put it on your radar. This could be an interesting little turnaround story and one worth paying attention to. Look, some of these low floaters, man. Last week I had YECO on my list. Whoop, no, I always do that. It's YECO. Had this on my list last week, right? I've been watching it. There was some insider buying recently. I thought this was interesting. I got involved and up like 40% on this thing. It's a nice little clip. I mean, terrible volume, 27,000 shares. Holy crap, right? I didn't buy a lot. I mean, you do your sizing accordingly, right? But this is a nice little move, and I'm looking for it to potentially have some continuation next week. So, sometimes these low floaters, I mean, you size your positions accordingly, but they can give you a nice little payday. So that GVP, I think it's one that you put on the radar, keep an eye on it for a potential pullback to support. Maybe dip your toe for a little trade there. PayPal, love the way this thing's setting up. So, we just talked about MasterCard and Visa and how strong they looked. PayPal, I mean, same thing, right? Not looking as good as MasterCard and Visa, but I kind of like the way this thing has been consolidating. I mean, it's kind of building up some energy. Had a decent little pop on Friday. 10 million shares. It's liquid. I mean, if this thing takes out this trend line, takes out $36 holla with conviction, I think it could give you a decent little play. Speaking of play, I like play, right? Dave and Buster's. I don't know when these guys report earnings, but look, since this thing has come out, done its IPO, it's been in a beautiful uptrend, and it's flirting with the $40 holler. It's flirting with this trend line break. If it breaks out over that, I think it goes and retests its all-time high at $43. That's a $3 move. I think it's pretty compelling. I think it's worth paying attention to play. NVCR, yeah. Was on Cramer's Mad Money Friday. Interesting, pretty compelling interview, actually. Usually when Cramer talks about stuff, it's almost a kiss of death. But this one is pretty compelling. And it's a recent IPO. I think this could be one worth dipping a toe in here. They just had a recent FDA approval of their product, so pretty good looking chart actually. And thinking, it could go back up and retest those 30s. So worth paying attention to the NVCR. AMD, look, very thick stock, garbage company. But here's what's interesting about it to me. You guys know I like this 5100 crossover. I've gotten that 5100 crossover. Getting some consolidation. The semiconductor sector is looking pretty solid. This is a very thick stock. I'm not sure that this is necessarily a good day trader. It might be one that you look at and say, I'll take it for a flyer on a swing. But came off right off this support around $2.20 or so. I'm thinking I might. I don't know. Like I said, it's more of a swing trade, but it is looking fairly interesting to me. AMCC, another semiconductor. This thing has been stair-stepping up. It's been consolidating. It tried to break a little bit on Friday, didn't quite follow through, but I like the way this AMCC looks. I think it wants to go back up and test that $8 holla. A10, look, insider buying throughout August. I love seeing insider buys. I know there are people out there that don't really care about that, but I like seeing people within the company, fork out some cash. I mean, I like seeing that. So this thing has been holding up pretty well. This $7.33 is kind of a good line in the sand. You could place your stop maybe down here at $7 or $7.13 or so. I think it wants to take out $8. That's kind of what I'm thinking. It's been on my list for several weeks in a row, but I think it's worth paying attention to. ARCI, I'm sorry. So look, very interesting little story here. Very thin little stock, ugly chart. I mean, ugly chart for a long time. Ugly chart. But look, long ways to go to get back up to this long-term trend line, right? $2.54 essentially, just to come up into that resistance. It's interesting because last week they announced, I guess one of their big competitors basically is liquidating, and they are seeing a significant influx of potential business opportunities, and that's what made this thing spike. Now, it's had a pretty big run. What I'm looking for is maybe if it comes back and holds it right around this dollar holla, if it can hold there, I might just dip my toe because I think what I'd really love to see now is that some insiders start buying. I mean, if I could see the insiders start buying on this thing because of the influx that they're getting from a competitor going out of business, that would be pretty compelling. So worth putting on the radar. FDML, long-term hold. Look, Carl Icahn owns like 80% of this company. I just listened to their most recent conference call. I mean, they're going through a restructuring as well. They've spent a lot of money on technology and all this other stuff. So they had been burning through cash. So that's why the stock is getting pummeled. But I think Carl Icahn's average cost or something that's somewhere around $9 a share or something like that. This one I'm looking to starting to build a position in for a long-term hold. See, look, auto parts sector, hot sector, right? Autos in general, we're at peak autos. So, but even if sales start dropping, in the long term, auto parts suppliers always do well, even in recessionary times, better in recessionary times, because of the fact that people, repair their cars as opposed to going out and buying a new one, right? So this one is a long-term hold thought process, and I might start dipping my toe. Ideally, the place that I would really like to buy it is in the $6.53 range, right? I'd like to see a retest of this low right here, and maybe try and get it there. But this FDML for a long-term hold, make that really clear, long-term hold. And I wouldn't be taking my full position. I'd be building my position. NYMX, insider buys, right? 100,000 at 325, just had a 13,000 buy at 328. Kind of got a nice looking little setup there. If you take out that trend line, I think you easily go up and test maybe the $4 holla, right? Even potentially come up and test $4.38 or so. It's in an uptrend, right? Stair stepping up, then consolidating a bit. I like the way it's testing. I haven't decided. I mean, look, for a day trade, if it breaks over, 350 with conviction, it might be a decent little day trade. And then you could also look to maybe get involved in this thing at $2.84, which would be, below this recent insider buyer of 328. I mean, it's compelling. I'm watching it. BLCM, another one that had an article out from AF. I'm just going to call him AF. It's much easier for me. He had an article out. Looks like they presented some data on over the weekend, today actually. So maybe you see a bounce. If it takes out 2380 with any kind of conviction, maybe it can come back up and test, $27 or so. We'll see how this reacts. I mean, like I said, the article was semi-positive. I don't know that it was really positive. WG, look, of the oil, I know that I said you kind of want to avoid the sector. Full disclosure, I'm already in these guys. I have scaled out a bit, and then I am looking to potentially jump back in. So you've got a lot of insider buying in this particular stock. 246 to 260. It could come down into this 250 range, right? 246. It could come down there and basically test this little shorter term trend line. I probably would look to be getting to start adding. The balance sheet on this company is pretty. I mean, of a lot of the companies that are out there, this one looks pretty darn good. They just sold off a division, I think, for I don't know how much. I think $130 million. They just got a couple of jobs for $29 million. I like this for a long-term hold, more of a swing. I think it's worth taking a look at, maybe potentially adding at 250 or 246, somewhere in that range. And the very last one, look, this one, another oil and gas name for a potential snapback play on Monday. I mean, I actually tried to take this on Friday, and unfortunately, I didn't have the cojones to pull the trigger. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I was trying to pull the trigger, but I was not fast enough. The thing just, walked away from me. I mean, I could have made a buck on this thing off of a nice little bounce. It was beautiful. It broke down below 17 and then almost snapped back immediately and went almost back up to $18, and then boom, came right back down and closed, basically near the low of the day. So what I'm looking for is a potential flush, right? I want to see this thing open on Monday, flush, and look for some sign of support and catch it for a quick snapback trade. I'm not looking to, build a long-term position in this one, at least not yet. It is compelling. Now look, on the opposite end of the spectrum from WG, this thing's balance sheet is scary, or at least it looks pretty scary. So you got to be pretty careful with this KMI. But there has been a tremendous amount of insider buying in this thing, up in the 20s, 17s, 20s. I mean, a lot of insider buying. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot more insider buying that starts happening, to try and defend this stock. I think it is a potential really good opportunity for a snapback trade. Look at the volume. The volume was huge. This could be capitulation volume. It's out of the lower Bollinger Band, right? Which is what you want to really see for a good snapback play opportunity. It is oversold. Doesn't mean it can't get more oversold. Doesn't mean it can't go lower. Look, these are all-time lows for this stock. All-time lows. Let's go back on the yearly. Boom. Never been lower. Okay? So there is no bottom in this thing right now. So this is absolutely catching a falling knife. But I think it could present a really nice snapback opportunity trade. And that's it, folks. That's all I have for this week. I hope you're having a tremendous weekend. Like I said, I'm pretty darn bullish on the markets in the short term. That doesn't mean that we can't have some volatility or that weird things can't happen and change, the way we feel. You just got to be really, you got to pay attention to what's going on and be able to react accordingly, okay? All right, that's it. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll see you all next week.